Billionaire finds Maid's daughter reading to his blind mom, caught between polished marble and a plastic library book. A whispered chapter halts a rich household. He steps closer. She does not stop. Everyone assumes a motive. The truth waiting in that room will undo reputations, fortunes, and the meaning of a single cheap bus fare. And it starts with a voice that refuses to bow. Lila Moreno reads aloud the way her mother taught her to wash a wine glass. Steady hands, gentle pressure, no wasted motion. She is 19 and knows the script of other people's rooms. Remove shoes at the door, keep your eyes down, learn the weight of silence. Her mother, Rosa, works the night shift in a building where the lights never go out, where elevators are cushioned and whispers carry. Rosa cleans, serves, mends. Lila studies, saves, waits. They live in a studio above a laundromat on a Brooklyn corner that smells of heat and detergent. Every weekend, Rosa places a folded $5 bill and a single quarter on the counter by the door. Bus fare there and back, she says. No excuses. It is $6.25 to cross the bridges into Manhattan and return. A cheap amount, a sharp line. A promise that no favor will be owed. Lila tucks the coins into a small zipper case with frayed teeth and repeats the family creed in a whisper only the steam can hear. We don't bow. We don't break. On the 30th floor of a glass tower across the river, there is a library that never sleeps. Its windows face the sky, and its shelves are touched by hands that never lifted buckets. Evelyn Hart sits there, wrapped in a grey shawl that smells faintly of lavender and old paper. She is 71, brilliant, stubborn. Once a scholar, then a philanthropist, she is now blind. Her world a textured map she navigates by hand and memory. She insists on stories every evening. When Rosa's boss asked for a steady reader with a calm voice to soothe Mrs. Hart at night, Rosa offered Lila with a stipulation: Lila would be paid by the hour, not in leftovers or dress shoes that were never meant for her feet. Dignity has terms. Across the city, Adrian Hart runs. He fills his lungs with cold air and miles he never had to earn. He is 32 and used to being seen on magazine covers, in boardrooms, at charity dinners, where his smile is a currency. He is the son of Evelyn and Victor Hart, co-heir of an empire that builds hospitals and harvests data, writes checks and shapes headlines. He grew up in that 31st floor penthouse, learning how to fold a handkerchief and perform sorrow at funerals. He carries the weight of a last name like a suit tailored to a body that keeps changing. He tells himself he can be better than the men in the portraits. But he also knows that wanting does not make a man different. Doing does. He just has not decided what to do yet. The arrangement seems simple. Lila will come 3 evenings a week, precisely at 7. She will sign in at the service elevator, carry her paperback in a canvas tote that reads Public Library in block letters, and read whatever Mrs. Hart chooses, biographies of painters who broke rules, novels with sentences that ring like cut glass, a book about a gardener who saved a city one rooftop at a time. Rosa will finish up on another floor, polishing hallway mirrors to a soft glow. No one will notice the maid's daughter slipping into a world of glass, then slipping out again, opportunity packaged as routine. On the first night, Evelyn tests her. Do you rush? She asks, her fingers tracing the air the way some people touch an old friend's face. No, Lila answers. Do you dramatize? I respect the words. Good, Evelyn says, leaning back. Too many people want to be seen inside a story. I prefer to see the story itself. Lila closes her eyes and begins to read. The room smells of beeswax and lavender. There is the faint tick of an unseen clock. On the table, a small ceramic dish with 2 pale lozenges. On the arm of the chair, a threadbare ribbon Evelyn cannot seem to throw away. A life of wealth, punctuated by the few objects she insists on keeping because they hold themselves honestly. What do you see? Evelyn asks. Lila almost smiles. A woman brave enough to let someone else lead for an hour. And what do you hear? Your patience. Keep going. Outside, the city glitters and hums. Inside, a sentence rises and weaves itself into the night. Lila reads until the vowels soften and the consonants lie down. When she leaves, she traces the hallway with the light feet of someone aware of thresholds. A week later, a new name appears at the sign-in desk, Adrian Hart. The elevator mirrors show him a tall shape with a loosened tie and a face learning how to be gentle. He pauses when he hears the voice from his mother's library. He does not step in. Not yet. It happens on a Tuesday when the weather is indecisive. Rain threatens and then changes its mind. Lila arrives with damp cuffs. The $6.25 in her case reduced to a single quarter, bus ticket already spent and folded between pages numbers she will later remember. She reads as always. Evelyn hums in approval. Rosa finishes polishing the gilt elevator panels on 27. There are routines in this building the way there are tides at the shore. Near 8, someone new enters. Genevieve Prescott, Victor Hart's sister and guardian of decorum. She wears a scarf like an accusation and moves with the quiet of persons who never have to hurry. She does not knock. She does not soften her footsteps. What is this? Genevieve asks, as if the act of reading aloud is a trespass. Evelyn turns her head. This is a story. Lila is reading. Your voice does neither. Genevieve's eyes take inventory. Canvas tote, scuffed boots cleaned to a shine, a paperback with a library stamp. Rosa's girl, she says. Of course. Her tone carries the double weight of class and expectation. Does she know how much Mrs. Hart's watch costs? She points to the delicate gold watch on the table by the chair, its face catching the light like a small sun. Leave it, Evelyn says. We were in the middle of Rome. But Genevieve steps forward and picks up the watch, turning it in her hand, considering it the way one evaluates a chess piece. You and I know how stories end for girls who linger where they don't belong, she says, loud enough for Lila to hear. A missing heirloom, a cry of innocence. A mother dismissed, the room tenses. Lila lowers the book but does not close it. Her cheeks warm and then cool. Humiliation moves through her like an uninvited guest. Fingers cold, breath sour. Put it back, Evelyn says evenly. Genevieve does not. She sets the watch into her bag as if it needed shelter. House policy, she says. Until we establish accountability. Victor would agree. We cannot be careless. The words, until we establish accountability, land like a verdict delivered before any trial. Lila stands. She does not plead. Mrs. Hart, I can come back when it is convenient, she says, and the sentence hurts to say because it grants Genevieve power she does not deserve. She lifts her tote, places the library book inside, and steps toward the door, but someone is standing in the doorway. Adrian has been listening this whole time, not eavesdropping, listening the way you do when something true touches a room and the air changes weight. He heard the accusation. He saw the watch move. He watched the maid's daughter remain upright under a humiliation he recognizes from a different angle. His mother once told him that wealth makes people clumsy with their hands and precise with their judgments. He never wanted to be either, but tonight he is slow. He let Genevieve speak. He let a stranger take something that belongs to his mother and, worse, to his mother's time. Genevieve, he says, his voice measured, that's Mother's watch. It stays here. She gives him a look she reserves for men she has diapered. You should be grateful someone pays attention. I am, he says. To the wrong thing, he turns to Lila. She is composed but constant, like a boat held steady by quiet hands. What were you reading? Olivia Lang, she answers. His mother smiles. She knows not to rush. Genevieve tightens her grip on the bag. You cannot be serious. I am, he replies. Leave the watch. In the pause that follows, something shifts, a realignment of gravity. Genevieve slowly pulls the watch from her bag and drops it on the table. The sound is small and enormous at once. Without another word, she leaves. The door eases shut behind her. The air loosens. Adrian exhales. He gathers the watch and places it back in its circle of light. The tiny hands tick without apology. Would you read the last page again? Evelyn asks as if nothing has happened. Lila opens the book. Her voice does not shake. She reads the final sentence. It lands clean and whole. When she stands to leave, Adrian steps aside. He notices the zipper case she carries, stamped with a faint pattern of flowers worn to ghosts. He notices the way she keeps her shoulders square, her chin steady. He notices the 6-25 in dignity that floats around her like an orbit. He notices he is ashamed of how easily this could have gone the other way. Microhook, the night is not finished with them yet. The corridor outside the library is a corridor of mirrors. People rehearse themselves here. Lila reaches the service elevator and presses the button, grateful for the thoughtless hum of the machinery. Adrian follows at a distance, not to shadow her, but to ensure no one else decides to turn suspicion into policy. When the elevator arrives, the doors open to reveal Frank, the night concierge, with 30 years of stories and a face that never quite reveals which side he is on. Frank looks from Adrian to Lila and then down at the tote bag. Ms. Prescott asked me to search bags, he says, weary. Adrian steps forward. No one searches anything tonight, he says. Mrs. Hart's watch is where it belongs. If there are new protocols, send them to me in writing. Frank's eyebrows lift at the phrase, send them to me in writing. He nods, a little bow of relief. The doors begin to close, then jerk open again as a hand slides between them. Victor Hart walks in. He smells faintly of expensive cologne and the unlit end of a cigar. His presence changes the oxygen. Men like him walk with a certainty that makes younger men reconsider their commitments. What is this? Victor asks. A misunderstanding, Adrian says. Victor's eyes drift to Lila's tote. Not for me, he looks at Frank. Search it. Sir, Frank begins. Mr. Adrian, search it, Victor repeats softer. Softer when he wants to be obeyed. Lila lifts the tote before anyone can reach for it. She sets it on the concierge desk and opens it herself. Inside, the library book, a spiral notebook with clean margins, a pencil worn to a stub, a bus ticket folded into a square, and the small zipper case containing $2 bills and a quarter. She opens the case, and the coin glints, ordinary as a pebble, sacred as a promise. 6.25, she says. Enough to go home and come back again. That is all I carry. That and a story. No one moves. Not yet. Victor's expression is difficult to read. The familiar annoyance of a man inconvenienced by the boundaries of other people's dignity. Close it, he says at last. And see yourself out. She will finish the chapter tomorrow, Evelyn's voice calls from down the hall, clear and specific. If the men in my family value order more than truth, they can argue about it in their separate rooms. The elevator doors open. Lila steps inside. Adrian does not. The doors close. The elevator descends, and the night decides to take a new shape. They do not wait to argue in separate rooms. Adrian follows Victor into the study on the 31st floor, a room that feels like a chessboard, reclaimed by the forest. Sunlight during the day, lamplight at night, leather that holds the memory of unkind decisions. She is Rosa's daughter, Adrian begins before Victor can speak. She reads to Mother. Genevieve was out of line. Victor pours a drink he does not need. We cannot run this house by sentiment. Then try running it by reason, Adrian says. You watched a woman humiliated for carrying a library book. I watched a woman whose presence was not cleared by me move through our private space, Victor replies. Protocols exist for a reason. Convenience is not a reason, Adrian says, hearing his voice shake and not caring. And suspicion is not a policy. Victor holds up a hand. Be careful. You are still green enough to think your outrage is a compass. You do not know how quickly the world will punish you for trusting it, and you, Adrian says, do not know how quickly it will hollow you if you do not. Their words rest on the desk, heavy and difficult. In the hallway, a clock ticks, measuring the distance between generations. Somewhere below, the service elevator empties into a corridor that smells of bleach and heat. Lila's bus pulls into the night. Victor breaks the silence first. Your mother's condition, he says, as if it is a paper he can fold. You know how precarious it is. You know the press will invent questions. You invite scandal with this, charity. Respect is not charity, Adrian answers. And mother's dignity is not a variable. It is an absolute. Victor drains his glass and sets it down without a coaster. You want to be a different kind of man. I hear it. I suppose it is admirable, like veganism. But you do not change the world by changing what you eat. You change it by owning the restaurant, and then, Adrian asks, and then you decide who eats. They stare at each other across a table no one has ever sanded. The argument resolves into something unfinished and permanent, the kind that will keep speaking long after both men leave the room. On the bus, Leela sits by the window, the smear of city lights turning to brushstrokes. She takes out her notebook and writes 3 lines. We don't bow. We don't break. We don't borrow apology when truth is enough. She thinks about the watch on the table and the way time behaves around certain people, obeying them, defying others. She thinks of her mother, whose shoulders hold other people's rooms. She thinks of the way Adrian's jaw clenched, not with anger at her, but with a strange grief at himself. She does not want to be grateful to him. She wants to be seen, without patronage. At the laundromat door, Rosa is waiting, hair pinned, apron folded, the posture of a general at attention. What happened? She asks, because mothers hear what rooms do to their daughters, even when the daughters only bring home a bus ticket and a quiet. Someone tried to make me small, Lila says. Someone else failed to let them. Rosa nods once. She places a hand over Lila's and a quarter between their palms. Keep it, she says. A coin is not a chain. In the tower across the river, Adrian does not sleep. He sits in his childhood bedroom, which now serves as a museum of accomplishments. Plaques on the wall, photographs of men shaking hands. He studies his hands and asks himself what they have actually built. His phone glows with messages. Genevieve has already spun her version. You invited risk into our home. Victor has added a line. We will discuss frameworks. He opens his laptop and pulls up a file he had bookmarked for months and ignored. Heart Foundation Literacy Initiative Pilot Program Proposal. It is full of lovely words and low stakes. It could be more than that. He types, deletes, types again. He writes the phrase that will begin to change his life, partner with community readers who already do the work no one sees. Microhook, tomorrow. He will send one email that rearranges a dozen rooms. The email arrives at 10 in the morning, official letterhead, polite phrasing, a sentence that feels like a door opening. Ms. Moreno, I'm writing regarding the unfortunate incident last night and to ask if you are willing to advise the Heart Foundation on a pilot program to bring reading companions to vision impaired residents across the city, paid, clear contracts. Your expertise as a reader and as a person who understands the lived texture of this work would be invaluable. Adrian Hart. Lila reads it twice, then a third time, the word paid, both relief and test. She shows it to Rosa, who reads it once and lifts her chin. You may advise him, she says. But you will not walk in there alone. They arrive together at a side entrance that smells of fresh paint and polished stone. Adrian meets them in the lobby, wearing a suit that seems embarrassed to be recognized as such. He thanks Rosa for everything she has done for his mother. He thanks Lila for returning. He does not apologize in public because he understands that apologies have an intimacy that does not belong to lobbies. In a conference room where the windows turn the city into a painting, Lila sits across from Adrian and 3 foundation staffers who know how to smile with their mouths and calculate with their eyes. They present slides about outcomes and deliverables. Lila speaks about names. Do you know the names of the people in your own building who cannot see the door to a library? She asks. Do you know which bus lines reach the neighborhoods where your grants never land because no one reads about them? A silence follows, substantial and useful. Start with the maps, Lila says. Start with the way the shoes of the people you want to reach wear down. And pay the readers as professionals. No gift cards, no leftover pastries. A paycheck. Adrian looks at her with a kind of concentration that suggests both admiration and instruction. He is learning to be led. Done, he says. They build a pilot together. Leela drafts the language for recruitment. You matter. Your time is real. Adrian pushes the budget higher and fights for it in meetings where the word overhead is spoken like a sin. Leela insists on two non-negotiables: transparent pay and printed schedules that do not require a smartphone. She includes a line about $6.25 and reimbursed transit, no questions, because dignity is often the cost of a ride. They visit a community center in Queens that smells of coffee and new paint. They sit together at a folding table and listen to three grandmothers explain what kind of voices they like. Not too smooth, one says, and not too proud. They both write it down. At the end of a long day, they return to the tower. Evelyn waits, hands folded, a small smile at the corner of her mouth. Did you build a better room? She asks. We started, Lila says, and we are not done, Adrian adds. Evelyn nods, satisfied. Good read, and so the pages move. So does the city narrator interlude. If you're still here, consider this. Power can be loud. Dignity is often quiet. If you have ever been spoken over, watch what happens next when someone finally listens. The pilot grows. So does attention. A blog writes about it. A local paper runs a photograph of Lila sitting beside a woman named Myra, both of them laughing at a sentence that lands wrong in the right way. The headline reads, "A quiet revolution in a loud city." The comments, as always, are a garden and a fire. Inside the Heart Tower, the initiative's success starts to raise questions. Curious ones at first, then sharper. Why is this line item so large? Who authorized travel stipends without a cap? Why are we paying readers for the time they spend riding buses? At a budget review meeting, a man in a grey suit points to a slide with numbers. We support efficiency, he says. But we do not want to create a culture of dependency, Lila answers, before Adrian can. Dependency is what you create when you ask people to work for praise. Independence is a paycheck. The room shifts, annoyed and alert. Victor is present, silent, listening the way a hawk listens. Later, in Evelyn's library, Lila notices a file folder on the shelf near the ribbon she always touches. It is labeled in Evelyn's neat hand, "Letters I will not send." "May I?" Layla asks. Evelyn laughs. "Of course." The best letters are always unsent. Inside are drafts, written over the months since Evelyn lost her sight. One is addressed to Victor. The words run like a river finally allowed to speak. "I know you could have funded the trial. I know the investors did not want you to. I know you chose them. I forgave you because I did not want to lose both my sight and my son. But I will not lie and say you did not choose. We all choose." Lila sits very still. The air around the folder seems to hum. The truth is complicated and simple at once. It is not that Victor caused Evelyn's blindness. It is that he stood at a fork in the road and walked where the money wanted him to. The hospital they owned declined to run a trial quickly enough. The funding went elsewhere. By the time a slot opened, Evelyn's condition had progressed. Choices, consequences, a lifetime of them. When Adrian returns from a meeting, Lila hands him the folder. "Your mother's words," she says. "I do not think she is hiding them from you." He reads in silence, the muscles in his jaw tight and then relaxed. He places his palm on the page, not to cover the words, but to steady them. "I knew pieces," he says. "I told myself stories about inevitability. And now? Now I see the engine," he says softly. "The invisible one that makes the gilded cage turn." They sit with that sentence. The invisible engine is policy. The gilded cage is the house. The engine turns because people pretend they do not see it. Lila knows engines. She has heard them in laundromats, in buses, in the lifts that carry men to meetings where they pretend the floor is solid. "Do you want to step out?" she asks. "I think it is time to shut it off," he answers. Another micro hook. The room where this will happen has a chandelier, microphones, and too many forks. The Heart Foundation hosts an annual gala. This year, the invitations are printed on heavy paper and carry the scent of ink and certainty. The theme is Vision for All. The irony is not subtle. The ballroom is a lake of light, the air cool enough to make diamonds behave. Waiters glide. Musicians play the kind of music that puts conversations at a pleasing distance. Lila stands near the back, wearing a simple black dress rented from a store that knows how to dress women who do not let dresses speak for them. Rosa is at her side, hair smooth, shoes plain. Evelyn is seated on the stage near the podium, her shawl a soft line of grey among the bright. Victor circulates, collecting congratulations he has not earned. Genevieve hovers like punctuation at the end of sentences she did not write. Adrian takes the stage. The script before him is standard. A list of donors, a handful of anecdotes, a promise to continue doing good where the light is already pleasant. He looks at the pages, then looks up. "I had a speech," he begins. "It was safe. It would have thanked the right people and left you feeling comfortable on your way home. But comfort is not vision. Comfort is blindness with better lighting. A ripple moves through the room. Curiosity, irritation, interest. My mother taught me that stories are not decorations," he continues. "They are tools. So here is a story. When we launched our reading companion pilot, we learned something our budgets had not accounted for. The cost of getting there. $6.25, sometimes more. A cheap amount, we told ourselves. And then we remembered what a cheap amount can buy: a person's dignity, the right to arrive without owing anyone anything. So we paid it. We will keep paying it." Another ripple. Some faces soften, others harden, and another story, he says, voice steady. "We like to believe that progress is a tide for which we can take credit. But tides are made of countless drops. Some of mine were choices I did not make. Some were choices my father did. When a clinical trial that could have helped my mother was delayed, we called the timing unfortunate. That word disguised a decision to prioritize investors over speed, safety over courage. We do not get to hide behind words. We get to change, or we do not." Victor's eyes narrow. Genevieve's mouth thins. "Tonight the Heart Foundation is setting a new policy," Adrian says. "We will make our budgets public in plain language. We will fund not only outcomes, but the invisible engines that make them possible. Bus fares, childcare, training time. We will pay readers like the professionals they are. And I will personally step back from any board on which my vote has been used to slow help, because help was inconvenient." He gestures to the side of the stage. "I did not build this alone. Lila Moreno, will you join me?" The room turns. Lila feels the rush of 1,000 eyes. Rosa squeezes her hand. Evelyn nods. Lila stands. She walks to the stage. The microphone is a mouth she does not intend to feed with apologies. "I am the daughter of a woman who cleans these halls," she says. "I read to Mrs. Hart because stories belong to anyone who can carry them. I do not owe you gratitude for what you were already required to do. But I will offer this. When you ask people to show up for the most tender hours of someone's life, pay them. When you build a program, put the cost of getting there on the first line, not the last. And when someone accuses a person like me because a watch is shiny, ask who is really missing something. There is a hush you could seat a family inside. Then a single clap. Evelyn, then Frank the concierge. Then a murmur becoming a pulse. There are also stiff spines and phones raised for messages that will be forwarded and forwarded. Truth rarely travels alone. It brings its enemies and its friends. Victor steps forward, expression neutral, and takes a microphone. The room braces for counter-narrative. He surprises himself as much as anyone when he says, "I do not like being corrected in public." A few laughs loosen the air. "But my dislike does not matter as much as my mother's life and the lives our choices touch. We choose convenience too often. We will do less of that." Genevieve's face tells another story. She approaches the stage with a smile so taut it hums. "How inspiring," she says. "To be taught by our beneficiaries, partners," Lila says softly into her microphone. "We prefer partners." The word lands like a new tile on an old floor. It fits. 1 week later, after the gala's headlines and reckonings, after the boardrooms and budget lines, the library is quiet again. Night folds itself around the windows. The watch sits on the table, its hands faithful. The ribbon lies where it always has, threadbare and true. Lila arrives with her tote. She does not sign in at the service desk tonight. She uses the front door. Frank smiles without asking for a bag check. In the elevator, she presses 30, not 30 for service. The walls reflect her face, and the dress she bought with her first paycheck as an advisor, not a favor, nothing showy, but hers. In her zipper case, not $6.25 today, but a folded post-it where the coin used to be. On it, 3 words: we don't break. She keeps the quarter at home, taped to the inside of a cabinet like a talisman. Adrian meets her by the library door, not to shepherd her, but because he is going in too. They have a meeting tomorrow with readers from 3 boroughs. They will negotiate terms that do not assume volunteers can live on appreciation. Evelyn settles back into her chair and listens to the room arrange itself. "Shall we?" she asks. "Let's," Lila says. She opens a new book. The first page has a dedication for those who carried us when we could not see the path. She begins to read. The vowels are still soft. The consonants are still certain. She does not rush. She respects the words. Halfway through the chapter, Evelyn lifts a hand. "Listen," she says. They do. The building sighs. The city hums. Time ticks. No accusations move through the door. No one touches the watch. "I kept a letter," Evelyn says, smiling. "The one I will send. To whom?" Adrian asks. "To you both," she replies. "To say thank you for changing the room with me." Lila nods. "We do it together." She turns the page. The cheap library paperback that once felt like contraband now feels like a passport. The tote on her shoulder does not apologize for being canvas in a leather world. The watch on the table does not apologize for counting every second the same, whether it belongs to a billionaire or a maid's daughter. At the end of the chapter, Lila closes the book and touches the ribbon. "I can fix this for you," she tells Evelyn. "Restitch it." Evelyn laughs. "Leave it," she says. "Let it remind us that use is a kind of honor." Outside the building, a bus hisses to a stop and then moves on. Inside, 3 people sit together in a circle of light, each of them less alone than they were when the story began. If this story made you feel something, if a bus fare, a watch, or a ribbon reminded you of the invisible engines that keep lives moving, share it with someone who needs to hear that dignity is not a luxury. It is a line item. It is a creed. It is a way to walk into a room and change it without raising your voice. And if you are still listening, remember, we do not bow. We do not break. We keep reading until the last page reframes the first.